Welcome to the Four Brewers Podcast. My name is John Holzer, and as always, I am joined by
Jason Harris,
Greg Nagel,
Joe Senegal, yeah.
And this week on the show, we are featuring beers from the legendary, the controversial, the notorious, I don't know, pick another adjective, brewery Ballast Point Brewing Company out of San Diego, California, and at one point somewhere in the upper north or northeast area. Where were Kings and Convicts out of? Chicago or something like that? I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, we're doing beers from Ballast Point Brewing Company, and we have a whole history that we're going to go through that Jason prepared, which is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I wanted today to be a bit of a retrospective about Ballast Point. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that Ballast Point of 2024 is not what they used to be in a lot of different ways. And I thought it would be fun to just kind of deep dive into the history of the brewery, kind of where they were. I mean, this is a really, really influential brewery that's been around for a long time. We're talking close to 30 years now, which for craft beer is fucking ancient. So I thought it would be cool, especially with where they're at now, which is barely existing, really. They're more of a brand. I think it'd be fun to just kind of go through the history of Ballast Point and where they came from, everything else there. And to start us off, we've all got beers, and we've all got the same beers, which is nice.
Yeah, we coordinated, and we were able to pick up the same multi-pack, which we found out they have quite a few different varieties of multi-packs out there, both for Sculpin alone in different varieties, which, of course.
I just like Sculpin.
And then for the mix pack itself, I think there was two that we were trying to nail down, or there was two that we had.
My theory is the other was the older one, like the one from 6 months ago or whatever.
We did it. We did the damn thing.
But we all got the same beer, and we are starting off. Thankfully, this was in the pack that we got because it works well for the story. The California Kölsch. So going a little bit into the Ballast Point history, Homebrew Mart is kind of the place that Ballast Point grew out of. Homebrew Mart is a homebrew store in San Diego. It was formed in 1992 by Jack White, who was a Southwest Airlines bagger before he started a homebrew store. And then in 1996, growing out of that community, Pete Ahern, or Ahern, who was a master, who was part of the Masters Brewing Program, UC Davis, and Yusef Cherney, who was an award-winning home brewer.
Oh, Yusef, yeah, dude.
Yusef is the person that I always associate with Ballast Point and Homebrew Mart and all that. He's like, when I first got into the craft beer scene, it was like, oh yeah, Yusef from, I don't think I've ever met the guy, but they're like, yeah, Yusef from Ballast Point.
So looking at the history of the company, Jack White and Yusef Cherney's name keep coming up. They were the executives all the way to the end. I don't know what happened to the other guy. He just sort of stops appearing in the stories after a while. Okay. So I couldn't find a story of him leaving or anything. I don't know what happened to the other guy. I didn't do that much research. I spent like an hour on this.
Well,
which is actually a notable amount of time. So that's good enough.
Yeah. Yeah, they were named after a historic area in San Diego. Did you know that, Joe, as somebody who's actually from the San Diego metro? So apparently it's an area on Point Loma, which is where the first European settlers landed off of California.
My whole thing with Ballast Point, I was like, dude, these guys must be like the biggest fishermen ever because all of their beers have fish on them. I'm like, what is it?
Correct. Yeah.
But
that it does seem to be true. I think they all just love fishing. And like their whole clientele was like dudes that love to fish.
Salty dogs.
Like these are going to be beers we're going to drink while we're on a boat.
Mm-hmm.
So their first hit beer, I guess the first beer they ever made was Ballast Point Special Ale. I couldn't find much detail on what that beer was. But their first hit beer, or they referred it as the first beer that paid the bills, was this, actually, the California Kölsch.
Fucking name.
They called it the Ballast Point Pale Ale because they didn't think people would understand what a Kölsch was.
Makes sense.
So
that's fair enough.
I still don't understand.
They marketed it as a pale ale until 2018, actually.
This is the first time I've had this beer, and as somebody who's been to Cologne a couple times recently, and tried, I think almost all of the Kölsch breweries there. This is like right straight up the path of like any old regular Kölsch.
And so here's why that is. So during his master's brewing program, Pete Ahern interned at Fru Kölsch at Brewery Fru am Dom in Cologne, Germany.
Oh, Fru, okay.
So
yeah, Fru is one of the ones that you can get out here. It was one of my least liked Kölsches because it's sort of like they have some fruity esters in it, which for the style, I don't know, fruity esters in a dry, crisp beer. It's sort of on the sweet side. Not a fan.
Yeah. No, this isn't like that for me. This is pretty
No,
much
it's good.
Straight down the line, nice, drinkable, dry Kölsch. At German style, I mean, even that, it's just, you get hints of the Kölsch thing. I think it's a little darker than I would think a Kölsch, like a modern Kölsch would be. No?
It's about average, yeah.
I mean,
Greg, did you say this was your first time drinking this beer?
It is, yes.
Me too. And I was going to just right off the bat when I drank that, I'm like, this reminds me of beer I would drink at Bagby.
Yeah, and here's the thing.
It's a classic style done in the classic fashion. Like, this is just a right down the middle, like, textbook Kölsch.
I wouldn't kind of consider myself as like a Kölsch expert. You know, it's my go-to beer. It's something that I go out of my way for if I'm in Germany or whatever. And the most beautiful thing about it is when it's not overcarbed. A lot of breweries here in the United States will make a Kölsch and it's way overcarbed. It's just gushing. And it really like puts the brakes on the drinkability because it's like prickly and sort of like hits your palate too hard. And I think they've done a good job here of dialing back that carbonation to what I would expect in Germany or if like a canned German Kölsch. It's pretty damn, like, it's got that little crackery biscuit thing, a nice little noble hop kiss on the end. It's like just straight up drinkability beer. It's good.
But also, I think like, if your buddy that is like the 805 drinker is over and you give him this, he's going to love it. Like, it's like right in that wheelhouse for like, if you like 805, this beer would be perfect for you.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could buy this in 6-packs because I mean, you just can't find it in 6-packs, unfortunately. But what were we going to say, John?
I was just going to say, I get the Belgian note more on the nose than anything else. It's got a slightly, I don't know, get like a very slight banana kind of thing happening on the nose. I mean, that sounds extreme. It's not like I smell bananas, but it's like a fruity kind of estery banana.
Like that estery thing, yeah.
Note on there. And it's quite nice. And like I said, it's not heavy on the palate, and you don't get a lot of that big German yeast character. And it's Kölsch too, so I wouldn't expect to get it on like a traditional German beer either. So it's really good.
You know what's crazy is I've told a story about how the very first craft beer I was ever given was a Stone Arrogant Bastard, and I was like, there's no way I can drink craft beer. If this would have been a beer that somebody gave me for the first time after like drinking Coors Light my whole young adult life, I would have been like, wow, maybe I can get into craft beer because this is not offensive. It's not something that's going to be like, oh, this is way over the top. It's super easy drinking. And
it just kind of is like, no, malt flavor can be in a beer and not be super challenging or weird. Like it really does, I think, tickle the same part of your palate that like drinking a light lager would do, but it's just a little bit more full bodied, more flavor.
Yeah.
Really, really.
This is good,
beer.
dude. I'm stoked on this beer. I like it.
Yeah, when we bought obviously there's like 3 of each beer in the mix pack, and I sampled a couple of them over the weekend, and I wish I would have started with this one because this one's very good.
It's pretty wild. It's wild that this is over 5%. Like I didn't think it was even that. It drinks way lighter than 5%.
Kölsch is around, low 5s to mid 5s.
Yeah.
And so next, guys, do we want to do the Speedboat or the Grunion?
I would say we go with the Speedboat, just because the Grunion is pretty hoppy for what it is. So
yeah, from the oldest commercial recipe to what looks to be kind of a new one and one that they're pushing really hard. I've seen this in tall cans, which means to me that they mean it to be a volume seller, right? Like it's going to go into gas stations or whatever.
Yep.
Notably, there is not a fish on this one, which is pretty weak. It's got some skeletons in a boat.
So here's the deal with this beer. I have high hopes for this because I am a big. It's probably going to sound weird. I'm a big like lime and salt lager guy.
Interesting.
I love what's the Stone one, Buena Vesa. I love that beer, the 805.
805 Cerveza. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm stoked on a little salt and lime.
I like Buena Vesa too. Like that's a beer I would just buy if I wanted something that was just easy to drink, and I'm
That's
on board
my summer
with you
beer,
on that
dude.
one.
If they were out of the bananas cream ale or whatever the shit that Joe found the other day.
I'm like, dude, what is okay, we're not gonna
Yeah.
We're talking about Ballast Point.
sorry.
So yeah, I mean, this is a very trendy style right now, right? The Mexican lager with lime and salt is, I mean, again, Stone's been doing Buenavesa for 2 years, 3 years, more, probably more. But Mexican beer in general seems like it's the only category in beer that,
But it's a blonde.
consistently doing well.
It's an ale.
Is it an ale? That tracks.
It's a blonde ale. Salt lime blonde ale.
I was looking at the date on this can, and so when I got that mix pack, the outside of the case of it said it was packaged in April, and this can says February 19th. What is happening? How dare you?
I got Feb 9th.
Mine says September 19th, 2023.
Ooh, wow.
Mine
Cool.
too. Actually, where was my Kölsch from?
Team Old Blonde.
The Kölsch was from February of 24,
Yeah,
But
so was
the-
mine.
but the lager is from September of 23.
See, this is April of 24, so maybe. Wow.
That's some old
They
stuff.
just gotta- They just brewed a lot of this shit.
Like fuck it, we gotta throw it
Yeah,
in this
when
box.
they do mix packs, they don't like package it all at the same time. They have like, there's probably a warehouse with this beer, that beer, and that beer, and they're like, okay, shove it down the line.
I'm getting a lot of salinity on the nose. You can smell that there's like a saltiness there, and
briny.
like that briny character. Yeah. And a
Smells
little
like
bit
a
of the
margarita.
citrus. But again, this is a 8-month-old beer at this point. It's from September.
That's
Too old, dude.
ridiculous. I mean, come on.
Mine smells pretty fresh for Feb.
Does yours smell pretty limey?
Yeah, I mean, it smells like a margarita, right? Like a salted rim. Like there's a lime sitting on the rim there, but it's not.
I don't
It
hate
smells very
this beer.
fresh.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I would drink Buenavesa before this.
Mine smells fine too. I mean, I do get the lime on there, and I do get a bit of that brine character on the nose, salty kind of thing happening. For me, it's not like it tastes old or anything, and I September for a lager isn't that ridiculous. Considering it has adjuncts in it like lime and whatnot, maybe maybe when it was fresh it was stronger, and then I wouldn't prefer this at all. But I really think that this is a little too sweet for me on the palate. Like it's, I don't know, I'm not fighting it. I'm like, eh.
I'm not getting a lot of lime character. Like there's a little bit of the acidity from citrus, but like any sort of aroma or flavor that like has that like green lime kind of pop doesn't seem to be there, and I feel like it probably should.
Not even on the nose
Yeah.
for you, Jason?
Not a lot, no.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I think that, lime in beers is really hard to pull off. It's got to be that, they're probably not zesting and squeezing in fresh limes. I guarantee you there's a dude with a huge tote and he's just dumping fucking some liquid in from
Right.
some puree thing.
Because the lime kind of comes off on the nose, almost not a little candy like, not like a acidic kind of. Not, I want to say burning, but when you smell lime, you can smell the tartness from it, kind of,
Mhm.
and you can smell the lime on this, but it almost smells like a candy version of lime, which again is kind of weird, but it's not that bad.
It's also finishing a little bitter for me for
Yeah.
this style of beer. Like it lingers on my palate a little bit after I drink it in a way that I wouldn't expect, because this is usually just kind of a refreshing style.
Yeah, I mean, it's a blonde ale, right? That they've added salt and lime to, but like, I don't know if I've ever done that or put fruit or any sort of like doctoring up a blonde ale in my entire life.
That's true, because
it's
I just called it
Doctor.
a lager, and it's not a lager; it's a blonde.
It's not a
ale.
lager, dude. It's got more body. It's got more heft to it.
Yeah, that would explain the sweetness I'm getting and kind of the fuller body on it.
There's a reason that, by and large, outside of fucking 805, that lagers are a lot more popular than blonde ales. And it feels like the only reason this is an ale is to make it cheaper. Right? So...
It's easier to
They can pump it out
Yeah.
faster.
Right, yeah.
It's not bad though, considering the other beers I've had. Spoiler alert: it's not that bad. It's drinkable.
Jason, I am reading your Ballast Point notes, and it says that Pete, whatever the guy's last name is, he did his master's brewing program at UC Davis, and it's funny because one of my buddies, JT, just commented, he's here. He's a Davis guy. Go Ags.
Nice.
Cool.
Look at that. We're full circle with UC Davis.
Hell yeah.
Isn't Davis where who's the dude, the foam dude? Is that where he
Pope of Foam,
Yeah. Is it UC Davis?
Charlie Bamforth.
There you go.
Is that like a popular brewing program?
I
there?
think their brewing program was kind of the
fermentation
only
science.
real prestigious one in the U.S. for a really long time, wasn't
I did
it?
not-
Or at least
a lot of dudes come out of there.
for sure.
You either go to Davis or you go to Weinstefan or whatever in Europe.
Bunch of smart kids, dude.
So we've dabbled with a Kölsch. We've had a faux lager, but everyone knows Ballast Point for hoppy beer, right?
Oh, okay.
You sound so stoked, dude.
Here we go.
Well, so
John is
here's the
pumped.
thing. Our next beer is Grunion, and we're going to go back to the history a little bit. So Ballast Point actually had one of the first double IPAs on the market. They called it a strong hoppy ale in 1998, but the Dorado recipe actually dates all the way back to 98, which is wild because don't they sell it now?
Beer Dorado.
Is Dorado the one that was like 10%?
It's like 8%, and
8%.
yeah, now you can probably only get it with watermelon in it.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Oh, baby. Yeah, I've had that before. Whew.
But
That'll
they
get
were
you.
also on the forefront of session IPA, and Grunion was one of the first session IPAs that was really good.
Dude, this beer was fucking awesome in 2014.
I liked it a
You
lot.
could go back and find episodes where we're drinking Grunion and fucking raving about it. And I've heard bad things, so we're tempering expectations here, but we're
This
diving
doesn't-
into Grunion, the classic.
Oh, jeez. This does not smell good.
All I can see is 24 on the bottom of my can. The rest is smeared.
Dude, mine's February. Hashtag Team
Yeah,
Old Grunion.
February same
And-
here.
Ooh. This is I'm getting a little
Valentine's
D on,
Day.
Dude, this
getting a little
smells-
D on the nose.
Yeah, it's either that or it smelled like mine kind of smells like a Jolly Rancher. Ugh. What happened to this beer?
It's full D.
You know,
it's
now that you
full
mentioned
diacetyl.
diacetyl, I do get a little diacetyl. For me, and I still get it. You know, maybe
Ugh.
it's not maybe. I know Grunion rhymes with onion, but I got like a very earthy kind of oniony thing on the nose the first time I tried
Earthy,
this a
yeah,
couple
yeah.
days ago.
I get
Well,
that.
so that's what shitty Mosaic tastes like, and good Mosaic tastes like candy. And this is a Mosaic heavy beer, is it not?
I don't believe
Mine tastes like bitter water. That's like sweet.
Bitter water.
Bitter water.
Yes, Jason. This is with Calypso and Mosaic hops
I'm sad.
by Doug Pominville.
We've really learned on the show that what Mosaic hops you get really matters. If you don't have the like prime selection Mosaic, they get real oniony.
So
Mine's
do
not
you guys
so-
get the oniony earthiness?
Oh fuck!
Oh.
There's diacetyl all over the nose on this. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
like-
Not only that, but like it goes diacetyl into like pencil shavings and then into like if you licked a pole somewhere, like not a human being pole, but like an
Dude.
actual metal
God
object.
damn it!
Pole liquor.
I told
It's
you.
like
That
iron.
is like-
It's just like some iron, like some ferrous sulfate, like sort of penny-ish character.
pennies.
It's-
Yes, it's
it's
like
rough.
nickels in your mouth. That's
Dude,
what it
This
comes
beer
off
is
like.
fantastic.
What the fuck? That is like that tastes like a fucking 5-barrel homebrewer just went pro IPA. Like that can't taste diacetyl. Like God, this tastes like IPA in the Inland Empire. This fucking sucks.
Ugh.
Inland Empire just taking straight, dude.
Sad
Oh.
but true.
Just dropped a IE bomb there. Love it.
I mean,
I mean,
with a few
not all.
exceptions.
If you
Shout
go,
out to Ritual. Shout out to Claremont. Not many other ones.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, sorry,
Um,
Grunion.
Uh,
Grunion
God.
season's over now.
technically
That
out here in the
sucks,
sticks,
dude.
this is the IE2, and there's some good IPA out here. But I know what
yeah,
you're saying.
we're not counting Temecula and all that. That's
Temecula appreciates that.
Yeah, leave
Can
my
someone
8-bit
at Ballast
out of it.
Point save this beer? Like, come on. We got to do better than this.
Well,
I can only
no.
hope this was a brewing mishap, like it's a one-off thing.
You're better than this, Ballast Point.
Well, I don't think it is, and let's go through some history. So, while we're living the sad reality of Ballast Point now, actually, we do have.
Ugh.
So, in 2005, Sculpin was created,
Sculpin, baby.
and the creators they credit are George Catalin and Doug Duffield. Sorry if I fucked
Yeah.
their names up. They'd been winning homebrew awards. They they compared their hop bills are really similar. It was a Amarillo Simcoe recipe. They combined that with Colby Chandler's recipe, and they made this beer apparently specifically for O'Brien's, which is a bar in San Diego. That
legendary bar. I think O'Brien's might. Yeah. Are they? Did they close? Are they still there? I thought there was a rumor that they were going away.
Fuck. If O'Brien's closed, I would be sad.
Yeah, the owner, Tom Nickel, I think he's part of it. He also I think he also they partially owned the lake at Koyamaka, the pub there, as well as maybe Tom Nickel also owns Nickel Beer Company out of Julian. I think they're sort of all related ownership wise.
So we'll talk a little bit more about Sculpin because spoiler, we fucking have Sculpin. We have 2 of them, so we'll talk about that in a bit. But I want to go through the history a little just because we're having a fun history show. We're doing a deep dive into the ballasts of points. In 2006, they opened their first production brewery. So before that, they were brewing out of the back of Homebrew Mart in Scripps Ranch, which I don't think that's there anymore. That was where the distillery was, right? And I don't think that's there anymore.
I went early on, maybe like 2008 or 9 on like a beer bus trip to San Diego.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you which place I was at. It was like our third stop, and I'm like 20 beers deep.
Yeah, I remember going there. It was, unremarkable small San Diego brewery. It was before they started building really like destination spots. Like before any brewery really built destination spots when all the fucking money came flooding in. Yeah. So the big turning point, it seems like, was in 2010. They won Champion Small Brewery at the World Beer Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And that was right as the craft beer tidal wave was taking off, and they got a ton of recognition and expanded up like fucking crazy. They opened up restaurants. They had a bunch of restaurants in Southern California. They opened a new production facility in Daleville, Virginia, which I did not actually know they had done.
Yeah, I missed
that.
I
didn't know they were one of the East
everybody
Coast expansion.
Did that,
yeah, everybody did that, and it didn't work out for anyone but Sierra, I think.
I believe Stone still has their Richmond location.
No, they sold that to
is that Brewdog or
Brewdog?
No, they sold it to the Virginia one. They sold to, didn't they sell to the New Realm dude?
Is it?
I don't
New
know.
Realm, Mitch Steele.
Yeah.
Didn't Ballast Point also open a spot in Chicago that didn't last very long because people in Chicago were like, we have our good beer here. We don't need fucking Ballast Point to be out here.
That you may be thinking of Lagunitas because they expanded there. Although Lagunitas Chicago just closed this week. So
wow.
Yeah.
Man, we're just full of good news today.
Yeah, Lagunitas Chicago closed this week.
No, it was no, Jason, March 24th, 2021, San Diego-based Ballast Point officially closes Chicago Brew Pub. Yeah, they tried going out to like the West Loop, and they're like, dude, there's so much good like local beer out there. Like, we don't need Ballast Point. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
I mean, I think they tried to go literally everywhere, right? So their Miramar Production Brewery, which that one is kind of a destination.
When did that get built? That was like 2013, 14? Or
2014 is when that opened. And there is so much money in that place if you
that place
go there.
Is crazy.
It's cool as hell, but it feels like you're inside of a giant old wooden sailboat. Like there's all this rigging and wood and everywhere. It's really nice. It's a really, really pretty facility. It's in a shitty industrial park, but once you get inside, it's really nice.
I've heard that.
I've never been.
You've never been to the Ballast Point in Miramar?
No, not Miramar. Just the other small locations.
It's massive.
It's really nice. It's I would say it's also right next to AleSmith's big facility, but I would say it's probably a little bit nicer than AleSmith's, but
AleSmith's is really nice too.
You know what's funny is there's a Ballast Point like maybe 0.8 miles from my house right here, and I've never been.
There's one in Long Beach, right?
Well, yours is at downtown Disney, right?
Correct.
But didn't that just close?
No, they're still open.
No,
I thought they closed all the downtown Disneys. I thought I just read that.
In the company's history, it's like a big fucking moment that they put on there. Like a whole, like of the 10 points of the whole company history, they're like, and in 2017, we opened our downtown Disney location.
Yeah.
It's like, God damn. It's cool, except for the beers are $18 or whatever the fuck. It was way overpriced.
That's a cool spot, too. The first time I went there was with you, Jason, and it's fucking amazing.
Yeah. I tried to like get a hookup for fresh brew. Nope.
Oh, that would
Sorry.
make sense though.
I can't drink this fucking Grunion, dude. This
No,
is
It's not
dude.
good, dude.
Just to follow up on
It's just
Stone,
in.
they are still in Richmond.
Stone.
Oh, I
Still
think
in
it was
Richmond.
Green
So,
Flash's facility out there that
Yep.
got sold to New Realm.
Oh, we're going to regular Sculpin. Okay.
Yeah, regular. This is from February.
Oh,
It's open
Jesus.
unleaded.
Mine's March, dude.
I will say this. I had some Sculpin on draft the other day, and it was still good.
Dude,
Mine's
I've
from
made
2023.
Oh, boy.
Warm on a shelf in Total Wine, dude.
This is going to be a dumpster fire.
Oh no.
So just shooting through their history, we're at the point where 2014 they opened Miramar, their big production brewery,
Oh, no.
and
Gosh,
then
this
next
smells
year,
terrible. This had to have been warm. This was warm for sure. This was not stored cold. There's no way.
Oh, man.
There's no way, dude.
every mixed
Oh,
12
it definitely was, especially at Total Wine.
No, this is
Why would
the
they put it in
19 ounce
fridge?
can.
Fuck.
Oh yeah.
So sorry.
So they opened their big production brewery 2014, and 1 year later sold the brand for $1 billion.
Billion.
Dude, can someone explain to me, like I'm four, how they got $1 billion for Ballast Point?
I just really think they were the peak of the hype wave.
Jason, it's $1 billion. Billion.
Yeah, they were
What are
the
we doing?
peak. And what did fucking Goose Island sell it for? It was like 65 million or something, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Nope.
Something low, which at the time was high.
Which is a lot less than $1 billion.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just really hit the absolute top of the market and sold for ridiculous. Even when that happened, people were just like,
The Constellation
Yeah,
brands are like, bro.
I
can you
mean,
give
at the time they had multiple locations. They had was the other brewery in Richmond still opened, or did we already say they closed that? So it looks like they were just like poised to take over the country with their beer. They had multiple, even before they sold to Constellation, there was multiple variants of Sculpin on shelves.
John, it's $1 billion.
and
Like,
so
It's insane.
And so before we talk about the buyout, because I think the buyout will be a good lead into the other Sculpins, because that really feels like it symbolizes the buyout for me. Let's talk about Sculpin, and not necessarily as
I don't
it
want
is
to talk
now.
about this can of Sculpin.
No, I don't. But let's talk about Sculpin as it is in our hearts. Like, where did we all learn? Like, what are you? I want to hear everyone's experiences with that beer, because
Dude.
Sculpin is a legendary
Yeah,
nameplate
yeah.
it is.
in the beer world.
There-
in
there
the
was
IPA
some-
world.
There was some guy at my work who was like, he drove down to San Diego all the time for some family thing, and he brought back Sculpin to me. He knew I was into beer, and he's like, dude, here's a Sculpin, like, bless you, son, and go on and enjoy the best beer in the world. And I cracked it that night, and it was heavenly. It was the best IPA I've ever had. You know, coming from, back probably 2008, 2009. I don't know when they started first brewing this, but it seemed like forever ago, right?
05 was the first.
Okay,
Sculpin.
I probably 08. And I've never had a beer that was just so good until maybe Pliny the Elder, but those two beers were at the top tier of the best beers in the world.
Of course.
For me, it was I want to definitely say it was Dr. Bill out of San Diego, because I was doing New Brew Thursday at the time. That's how I got into craft beer through New Brew Thursday. Like I dabbled in it before then.
New Brew Thursday, hey.
But
Woo!
yeah.
Woo!
And the first IPA that blew my doors off was Pliny, and that was Steve wanted to start doing on location shows, so we went to like a restaurant that served beer in Temecula, and did a live show. And I remember Steve's like, "You want a Pliny?" And I'm like, "Sure." I've never had it, and I took my first sip, and I'm like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." But that's Pliny. Ballast Point. At some point, I'm sure it was Dr. Bill, because he was like his thing was basically
Sculpin.
Pliny, Union Jack, and then
Gosh,
Sculpin
Union Jack's so
was
good.
another beer that was always around. So that was me. It was definitely Dr. Bill that introduced me to it.
And I think Jason had the most untapped check-ins for Sculpin in
Yeah, it was
the
you and a dude
Western
from like
Hemisphere,
Japan, right?
For several years, I was leading untapped check-ins for Sculpin.
I was the Sculpin goat.
I was the number one on the leaderboard for Sculpin. I drank the beer all the fucking time, and I was unseated by a Japanese dude named Ichiro, and I was like, how the fuck is this Japanese guy getting more beer than me? But he had pictures of every single one, and every picture was a different beer at a like bar in Tokyo that he went to all the time. Like
American craft beer is all over Japan, Greg.
Yeah.
Like,
I appreciate that. Yeah.
I remember the first time I got a bottle of it. I went and visited some friends that lived in inland San Diego County. City's called Santee, and there was a beer store there that was like the cool beer store in that part of the county, and the dude had a shitload of Alpine beer, which I bought all of, and I got a bottle of Ballast Point Sculpin. I remember it was a tan label back then. Mm-hmm. It looked almost like it was a grocery bag, but it was the same fucking fish that it's always been, right? I think they had the same artist do a lot of their fish labels initially in the old days. But yeah, goddamn, if it wasn't one of the best IPAs made, period. Yeah, it really, like, I think that whole company, all of that expansion, all of that was really on the back of
back of the Sculp.
They've got one of the best IPAs in the goddamn country, like, just straight up. And for a mass market IPA, like, even once they scaled up and it wasn't just a bomber beer anymore, it was really a high quality beer for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, getting into the variants of Sculpin, pineapple, grapefruit Sculpin was always the one that I would gravitate towards. Just the grapefruit works so well.
Yeah.
I always loved that. I'm a habanero head, and the habanero Sculpin is probably my fave.
Yeah, Andy Richter in the chat brought up the habanero Sculpin.
It was so good.
That one was great. And the fun thing with that beer is like the bottles varied in heat, and so it was really like a bit of roulette which is fun with spice.
I took a tour, and one of the brewers showed me how they make habanero Sculpins. They have like a Grundy, not a Grunion, but a Grundy tank of like habaneros, and then they dose one tank of Sculpin is dosed with habanero, and then they brew regular Sculpin, and then they blend in the Sculpin with the habanero with it already in it to taste.
Yeah, because at a homebrew level, if I were doing habanero in beer, I'd put it in like a tincture of vodka.
Correct.
And then mix that into the beer. But obviously you can't do that if you're a pro brewery because the spirit. But
the way they explained it to me was that they made they did basically what John said. Not to question you, Greg, but I remember when I was on their tour, they said they basically used really, really hot water to make a habanero slurry kind of.
Exactly. And then they dosed that one batch.
Yeah.
And then married that with another tank slowly to taste.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Dude, so going back to regular Sculpin, I moved back to San Diego in 2011, and one of my best friends, we did like this golf weekend at his house, and he bought a Ballast Point mix pack, and Sculpin was in it, and it was the first time I had it. I'm like, this is one of the best beers I've ever had in my entire life. Like, holy smokes, what is this? And then I realized that there was a place downtown Oceanside on Thursday nights. They would do Thirsty Thursdays, and it was $5 pitchers of any beer that was on tap. And I realized they had Sculpin, and I'll die on the hill. The greatest value ever was $5 pitchers of Sculpin. We would drink my Friday mornings were absolutely horrible, but I was like, dude, this is the best beer ever. And then going into the YouTube beer scene, when I started trading beers, dudes would be like, can you get Sculpin? I'm like, yeah, I could trade Sculpin for anything. It was crazy. It was gold. Because they weren't distroing up north. Like, even in the state, like the dudes up north weren't getting it, and then obviously people outside of California, back then I was trading it for like Zombie Dust. People would offer Heady Topper for it. It was nuts. Like, Sculpin could get you could get anything.
And what's so weird about it is, like, I can't think of another beer that has gained that much prominence off of Amarillo and Simcoe, right? Like
those hop farmers were like cashing checks back then.
Like, those are old school hops, but like, can you think of any beers that are like modern? Well, not modern day, but even 10 years ago that were like blowing up, that were like Amarillo Simcoe heavy beers. They're just unusual. Hops.
Pliny.
But
Duet.
Pliny's primarily like CTZ, right? Like
No, it's Simcoe,
lot of it.
Amarillo, I think primarily, and then other things are sprinkled in. Salt Baed.
Okay, so there is one.
Yeah, Duet from Alpine.
Alpine, was that an Amarillo Simcoe beer too?
It's a duet of Simcoe Amarillo.
And
Oh,
you know,
look at that.
Alpine actually
Knuckle
and
sandwich.
Green Flash in general feels kind of emblematic of what Ballast Point is these days as we continue down the history or whatever. But I mean, yeah, these Sculpin tall cans, I mean, they're old. They were stored back.
Yeah, it takes
Maharaja.
oh my gosh. Is Avery still around?
Yeah, Avery, dude.
Yeah, they just pulled
Maharaja
out of-
was fucking awesome back in the
Dude,
day.
that was like
so
I want to
sweet.
get drunk. Yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't that was an IPA that had foil on it, right? Wasn't there foil on
It was
it?
foil.
No. Oh,
It was
well, Avery had foil on the tops of everything.
I'm saying Maharaja had foil on it, right?
It did, yeah.
Yeah. I remember going
Gold
to
foil.
one local bottle
So
shop.
fancy.
Oh, dude, it was the best. And well, that's why I mean I don't want to go off topic, but you were at Bootleggers and I knuckle sandwich
Yeah,
like that beer.
That's what
and
I'm
then,
saying. That's a Simcoe Amarillo bomb.
But
too.
your post jogged my memory. The very first Galaxy beer I ever had was Far Out from
Far
Bootleggers.
Out.
And
I had
that
Far Out
beer-
Nelson yesterday.
I'm saying that beer was awesome back in 2014.
Yeah, dude. I waited in line for Knuckle back in the day.
I still have Bootleggers. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I remember
love-
Knuckle Sandwich being a big get too, like for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
And
It's not as
it
good.
was in those bombers, dude.
Yeah, I waited in line for knuckle sandwich a couple different times at the old brewery. Just to comment on my Sculpin, it's fine. There's nothing really wrong with it. It's I'm
God
sure.
bless you.
I mean, I got my 12 pack off a shelf as well, but I guess it's like
Mine had
roulette.
to have been stored warm, and it's old, and it's whatever.
the
Yeah.
aromatics are gone on mine. The hop
Yeah.
flavor is really muted. The bitterness is really strong. It's like when I drink this, and I think if I'm somebody who's never tried IPA and somebody hands me this, no wonder so many people are like how many people's first experience drinking IPA is something like this? Like not necessarily Sculpin, but like some mass, large regional mass market IPA that's been sitting on a shelf for 6 months and ended up in a cooler, and they try it and they're like, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Why does anyone drink this
Zombie
shit?
Dust is a great example of that. You see it everywhere at Bevmo and Total Wine, but it's hardly ever in a
Do you
cold
mean
box,
Pseudo
and it's
Soup?
old. Did I say Zombie Dust? I
Yeah,
meant Elysium.
Space Dust.
Yeah.
Space Dust. There you go. Yeah, not
Space
Zombie
Dust,
Dust.
coast to coast.
Remember Tricera hops?
Yeah, dude.
That beer was everywhere, warm shelves too. I'm like, fuck. That's what, Ninkasi? Yeah.
Yeah, Ninkasi, yeah.
Oh my God, Ninkasi.
They're
They
still,
pulled out of SoCal a while ago.
they're still around, yeah. A
Are
lot of
they
the
really?
Oregon guys did, yeah.
I have a buddy
Like,
who
dude-
that was his beer, dude. Of like, I would get texts all the time. I'm like, wow, Tricera hops again. Nice.
A few years ago, I was in Arizona and I went to a beer store and I was like, holy shit, they got a lot of Deschutes here. I was like, they've got like one 6-pack of like Black Butte or whatever at my local liquor anymore. But like in Arizona, they've got a fucking end cap devoted to Deschutes.
Jason,
Yeah.
in fairness, like 2014, Fresh Squeezed was my shit. I loved that beer.
Yeah, dude.
Love that beer.
I liked that beer a lot.
We went to Portland for my 10-year wedding anniversary, and I sat at Deschutes and drank it like on tap, and I'm like, I can die happy. Take me now.
I'm on record as like that is one beer that I've never got. Like I've never gotten. Like I
Feel like you
try
didn't
it every
understand
couple. Yeah, like I'm like it's not for me. And people who like the same things I like all rave about it. And I try it every couple years, and I'm just like, no, still don't really like it.
Wow, really? How dare you?
I tried it at Deschutes in Bend, and I was like, yeah, it still sucks.
It's Mosaic and Citra, like two of the best hops ever.
It doesn't make any goddamn sense. On paper, I should love it, but I don't. I still hate it.
And another reason why I never buy Sculpin anymore, because it's always stale as fuck at anywhere I go shopping because people don't buy it, and mine tastes like rotten oranges and a wet phone book, and it's gross. So
Jason and Sarah stayed over at my place a while ago when I first moved in, and I remember on the way home we bought a 6-pack of Sculpin and Swami's, and I remember it being fine then too. But we had a lot of beers that night too, so maybe it just kind of blended in with the
I found a fresh
The
6-pack
mix.
of Sculpin like a year and a half ago and revisited it on my YouTube channel, and I loved it still. So I think there's
I'm
something
sure,
to be said
yeah, if you
about
get it fresh, it's probably great.
and how it's stored, and yeah, for sure.
However,
However,
so going back to the history as a lead into our next beer. So the Constellation Brands era for Ballast Point really was the era of flavored Sculpin. I mean, what flavors of Sculpin can you guys think of?
there was grapefruit, there was
We have-
habanero,
We have pineapple here, so we know that one.
Pineapple,
there was
probably-
Aloha Sculpin.
yeah.
How is that different than the
Gross.
pineapple one?
I don't know.
Wasn't there a pog juice or something?
Was there
version?
coconut in it or something? The Aloha? It sounds like it
There's
had
hazy
coconut in it.
Sculpin.
I'm just gonna tell you guys.
I have a
opened
hazy
my.
Sculpin.
I'm saying I opened my can of pineapple Sculpin and it smells like pineapple. Like I don't want to.
It smells like pineapple. Yeah,
I'm
the
sure
can
it does,
smells
Joe.
good.
Just wait till you drink it.
Unfortunately, pineapple is bad.
It smells like pineapple.
That's the best of your experience.
It smells like pineapple now and later's. If you've ever had,
It
Not
almost
from
smells
your
like
day.
pineapple chapstick.
yeah.
That's
yeah.
not very.
Once you pour it in a glass, though, it turns the corner into like durian Sculpin.
I
Ooh.
found a.
Have you ever had durian? By the way,
Yeah.
I found a blog from 2019. They made a spruce tip Sculpin, which honestly, give me all of that. I would drink the fuck out of a spruce tip
Ooh,
Sculpin.
that tastes so like. What is that?
Ooh,
What is that?
durian. It's so funky.
It's like a mixture of like.
mine. It's like you fed your baby like pineapple. Like,
And then
like
you
pineapple
change their
puree,
diaper.
and like you're burping it, and then the baby barfs on your shoulder. You're like, oh, it smells like sort of pineapple baby barf. It's sort of cottage cheesy.
Oh gosh, that is what it is.
You know what? While Greg is talking about this, I'm closing my eyes and I'm imagining drinking spruce tip Sculpin.
Okay,
How much better that would be.
this is not drinkable.
Yeah, that's bad.
Okay,
This
this
is
is,
not fit
weird.
for-
So this is another beer that I opened prior to the show today. This ain't bad.
It
Oh,
smells
man.
like pineapple a lot. How old are our cans?
Mine is April. Mine's April 1st, and buddy, this is an April Fool's joke on me.
Mine is March.
Mine's March.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Trying to decode mine. It's like
March
I have
4th?
ink smear in all my cans.
How do they all get smeared inside the
Smeared.
12 pack?
I don't know, dude.
Yeah, so I don't understand what's happening because the Grunion definitely is what I remember from a couple days ago, but this ain't bad. It's definitely dominant with the pineapple, which I do not prefer, but
It's very artificial. It's artificial pineapple, I think.
Yes,
I'm sure.
I'm getting a lot of artificial pineapple aroma and a little bit of flavor. And like the old can of Sculpin, I'm getting bitterness from the
It's
hops.
mine's super
Oh my
bitter.
god.
But I'm
Very
not
bitter.
getting any aroma. I'm not getting any hop aroma whatsoever.
So-
I'm not getting.
Do you guys know what's that like? So that there's like this bubble gum that's like hard and it has like the jokes and shit in it.
Oh, the
Bazooka.
Bazooka.
Yeah, mine smells like bazooka bubble gum now.
It's weird because you have this like sweet artificial pineapple flavor
Huh.
on top of this like hop bitterness, and it doesn't fucking work, dude. It doesn't.
Now that you say bazooka, I mean, I kind of get that.
Mine still has the chapstick thing, dude. And I know someone said that was bad, but I told you the story when I was in middle school and that girls wore chapstick that was flavored. And yeah, I wasn't mad at that.
Joe flexing that he kissed girls in middle school. Fuck you, man.
Wow.
I'm just saying, it's a good memory.
Joe, what's I see Ric Flair on your shirt, but what else is there? The Golden Girls.
Golden Girls
Nice.
with
That rules.
Ric Flair.
Woo!
That's amazing.
Space Mountain.
He would still pull his dick out.
Listen, you can never be the first, but you can always be the next.
I 100% believe Ric Flair would have the balls to pull his dick out on Betty White.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, like I said, with mine, it's not as. I mean, I don't know. Maybe my headspace was in a different spot, like when I opened this the other day. But it's not bad. But I definitely wouldn't buy it again. It's just way too much pineapple. You don't get any beer. You get pineapple flavored beer, and it's,
Yeah, all you get out of the beer is bitter and alcohol. And
What do you
then-
think? Yeah, what do you think of the bitterness level? Mine is like way over the top bitter.
It's
like
super
the
bitter.
finish on it just does
I
not
feel like
quit.
If it was delivered with hop flavor, I would expect it, but I'm drinking what tastes like pineapple seltzer almost, or like pineapple. It fucking
The
sucks.
bitterness does linger on the
God
back of
damn.
my tongue. Like I can still feel it kind of getting bitter down my throat. Like
Sorry,
I don't
Ballast
know,
Point,
it's-
but
it's not great. It's what I expected, more or less, though. But like I said, Sculpin, the one can that is so far pretty good is Sculpin. So
Dude, and Matt's correct. Sculpin was ahead of its time. That beer back then was legendary, absolutely legendary.
And what would Pineapple Bread have to say about this beer? Honestly, all right, I think
pineapple.
Throwback.
This beer, I'm just gonna throw it up in the corner.
I do think Brett would actually make this beer better.
Just get
actual
it funky.
Britannomyces.
It would dry it out a little bit and give it a little bit of funk. I think that would
let's get
actually
funky.
work.
I'm very much enjoying drinking the Kölsch in between all these shitty beers, though.
My Kölsch has long been dusted, my friend.
Oh, fuck,
It's
I killed the Kölsch, yeah.
Hey, did anybody think at any point in your life you'd buy a mix pack of Ballast Point and the best fucking beer would be a California Kölsch out of it?
And that's really the
No.
thing, man. That like
Like,
that I didn't
2024
do
is
this show.
wild.
I really didn't envision this show as like an assassination of Ballast Point because I fucking love Ballast Point. I was the Southern California Sculpin King for
we all
six-
loved Ballast Point.
for
And when they-
6.8
yeah.
months in in 2016 or whatever until the goddamn Japanese guy dethroned me. Fuck you, Ichiro. No, that guy's my
Well, the name of that we titled the show was the Ballast Point Wake.
The
which
Wake,
I'm
yeah.
double entendre.
There-
I mean, it's a wake.
This would
and
be
then
probably the
like a-
last time I'm gonna buy a Ballast
it
Point
kind
beer.
of seems like it seems like they're getting ready to be like done though, right? With everything we're reading, like this.
They
actually,
are.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's-
let's go into a little bit more of the history, or the history, the modern history of Ballast Point. So they got purchased by Constellation,
For
in
$1 billion,
flavoring of
Jason.
everything, and it wasn't just Sculpin. It was Watermelon Dorado. It was what are the other dumbass shit you saw back then? It was just every beer they made plus flavorings from fucking. Who are those guys that gave us some sample flavorings at the craft beer summit?
Amaretti.
Amaretti, yeah. It was just Ballast Point staple beer plus Amaretti flavoring to whatever the fuck you want. And they were all trash. They were all super sweet garbage.
Trash.
And they were all fucking trash, just straight up. And it was like, yeah, of course, they got bought out. And now they're just trying to take what's successful plus flavor, like every other brand, right? Like you go to the store and you can get Cheez-Its or 40 other flavors that are Cheez-Its, but worse. Like you go to the candy aisle and you can get Reese's Peanut Butter Cups and 40 other flavors that are Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, but worse. And like every brand is just like Oreo is like, hey, you know how Oreos are great? What if they had Sour Patch Kids in them? And you're like, what the fuck? I don't want that.
Do you know what
But
it
it-
seems like is adding all these additives sort of that don't age out sort of helps like the long-term shelf stability of these beers. So like as the hops fall out, you're like, sure, a beer geek may be like, yeah, it tastes like a fucking wet phone book with pineapple on it. But like an average dude is going to be like, yeah, it's pretty fucking good. It's got some pineapple. I get the pineapple notes on it. It's pretty good.
So I'm browsing Untapped here. Grapefruit Sculpin, habanero Sculpin, mango even keel, watermelon Dorado, Aloha Sculpin.
Yeah, they had a lot of
pumpkin
adjuncts.
down.
Do they have a kale sculpin?
Kale Sculpin.
Dude, I'm all over that.
Unfiltered Sculpin.
Avocado sculpin?
Peppermint Victory at Sea. Coconut Victory at Sea.
Victory C
Rizwa
is
said,
not
don't
bad.
give them ideas. I didn't give them ideas. That was some shit I saw on the internet last week. Sour Patch Kids Oreos are real and they're horrible.
Is there a chance that we could get like one of the legit brewers down here to be like to brew a beer called I Remember Sculpin and just get like the recipe and brew it?
I mean,
So
I
we can
think
have
the
good
recipe's
Sculpin again.
around.
Yeah, someone needs to brew I Remember Sculpin and just make it fire again.
And just start a brewery called I Remember Sculpin.
Well, no, I
Well,
just like,
and so let's learn a little bit why it kind of sucks now, right? So Ballast Point.
let's learn a little
We need a
bit why it
whiteboard.
sucks.
No, yeah. So Ballast Point was bought in 2015 by Constellation for $1 billion.
Billion.
with a B. 1,000 million.
Happy
Fucking
for the
impossible.
dudes.
It is impossible.
And a really hilarious part about that is that White and Cherney, the two of our three founders, again, Pete Ahern, I don't know what happened to him. But
Jason,
They
how was the
maintain-
ROI on that $1 billion sale, by the way?
for
Seems bad.
consolation, I think
Seems
they wrote it down. Yeah. So White and Cherney maintained ownership of the Ballast Point Spirits division. They renamed it to Cutwater Spirits. It was sold to AB in 2019 for undisclosed amount of money, and best I can tell, they both still work there.
$1,
They both
Mortimer.
are
Yeah.
still it. They are still the
Killing
management
it
of Cutwater
with RTDs, yeah.
Yeah.
Did
and
anybody
honestly,
ever have like the old Ballast Point Spirits? Were they good?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they were
not bad.
fine. They're fine.
I remember like bottle shops would get those, and it was like one per person, and like you had to line up for.
They,
and I was like,
they
no.
did a Bali High rum that I really loved.
They did white whiskeys a lot, which are shitty inherently. They're just like, hey, we're a craft distillery and we got to sell something for the next 7 years. So here's this garbage whiskey we made. I think they called it Devil Share or some shit. But anyways, so in 2020, the big surprise was a company nobody had ever heard of before called Kings and Convicts bought Ballast Point from Constellation Brands 5 years after Constellation bought it for $1,000 million. And there is not an exact number, but the sources I found said
Pennies on the dollar.
less than $100 million, and we've heard as low as $60 million is what they actually paid for it.
Yeah, I think 100 is generous.
It's under 100, which is still way less than the $1,000 million they paid for it initially. But the largest stakeholder is someone named Richard Mahoney, who's the chairman of the board at the Wine Group, who makes brands like Benziger and Cupcake.
Okay.
So they brought in people. It's a small company, but it's not people without money. They were like, I mean, Cupcake wines are at like every fucking store I've ever been to in my life. The gas station has Cupcake wines. Somehow
They're not good.
No. And so here's where the really bad news starts. So it sounds like a good news, right? Ballast Point went independent again, and they were no longer a not craft brewery. They were now independently owned again, so they would be part of the BA or whatever, or part of the craft brewery.
Nobody
list.
cared.
And yeah, it didn't matter because they weren't making anything interesting except for flavored Sculpin. A beer that we didn't mention in here, like Ballast Point actually had a really cool barrel program for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
They had some good stouts, like Victory at Sea.
That's
If
great
you
beer.
bring up Ballast
Victory
Point, Victory at Sea was a great beer. And
Technically a porter, but yeah, it was one of the best beers, like especially for cellaring too. It just cellared so well.
I've got a
It
cork
was
and cage
fantastic
bottle, like
beer.
barrel-aged version of that somewhere in my house. I don't know where it is.
You should open it. You should. It's probably time.
so in April, they announced they're shutting down the Miramar facility. Apparently, they're not selling they're not shutting it down. They're selling it. They're not selling enough Ballast Point beer to make that facility, that huge brewing facility, worthwhile. They were trying to take on contract beer, and it wasn't really working. So they're shuttering it. They sold it to somebody else, and they are contracting all of the Ballast Point beer now.
After laying off dudes.
And it seems like that's a temporary measure until they can build another spot.
That's
where
what
they
they're
can
saying.
Build a,
Yeah, the writing's on
going
the
to?
wall.
But they basically are contracting from their own facility at this point. They sold it to somebody else to make whatever else they're
Just
making.
liquidate some cash to keep
Yeah.
operating.
And they're contracting from that facility now. And so that's life support. That's Green Flash at this point. You know, you're just a sub brand. It's part of a conglomerate and you don't really exist as a brand. And there's been a lot of gloom, but the silver lining came in this week. This was news that happened 5 days ago, which is that the original Homebrew Mart location is being sold. Again, seems like Kings and Convicts is trying to get some money out of Ballast Point. And the purchaser is Jim Johnson, who was the GM of Homebrew Mart from 2015 to 2021. And it sounds like they're trying to bring the Homebrew Mart back to what it used to be. It apparently has a 40 tap tasting room in it right now and a production brewery in it right now. And they're removing all of that and turning it back to just a homebrew store.
It has 40 Sculpin variants on tap.
Right.
Just like squeeze bottles that you squirt all the stuff into one beer.
At the end of the day, it's like big corporations came and they extracted all they could out of Ballast Point. Meanwhile, Ballast Point also, the founders of Ballast Point extracted all they could out of big corporations.
Which is great.
Really, holy shit. If you win a business, dude, they sold out twice. Like, it's wild.
You can't fault these people for making money. And it's a shame
that's generational money.
Yeah. It's a shame that Sculpin isn't what it was. And then, but that's beer. Certain things change. Some things get better. Some things get worse. There's always something on the shelf that is interesting. And I'm glad that we get to try these beers today. And, it's not the Kölsch. I'd buy that again. That's about it.
It's wild that the Kölsch was like world class and all the other beers in the same pack were just fucking shit.
I would buy cold stored Sculpin if it's fresh. I would give it another chance.
If you see it on draft, I'd say grab it. Sure. Packaged, I don't know.
What's crazy is, Jason, I'm trying to think of the last time I saw Sculpin on draft. I just don't recall seeing it, which is weird.
I see it at shitty bars a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you see it, it depends where you see it on draft, because then you're dealing with lines that aren't being
it's like, there's your space dust, there's your your Sculpin,
I mean, if they have space dust on tap, it's likely they don't have Sculpin on tap, because InBev owns all of their lines anyway. So
weirdly, there's a divey kind of bar by my house that has like surprisingly good beer and cocktails. And
why haven't we been?
And Sculpin is their like go-to. Look, if you want to come go to the Etowanda Roadhouse with me, Greg, I'm all in.
I just bought a new car, so I might.
We'll go.
Let's do it.
But yeah, they always have Sculpin on. Like, I think any bar that was trying to be better than just the typical AB taps, or they just didn't have the AB, they had Stone distributing, they probably have fucking Ballast Point on. But yeah, kind of a sad whimper. Ballast Point, I think, is kind of dead, right? Like,
goodbye, Ballast Point. I love you.
They're a contract brand at this point, which is barely being a brand.
I'll say this: they still brew Victory at Sea on a seasonal basis,
right.
And so I guess now it's going to be contract brewed. That's probably the next beer I'll look into getting, because I haven't bought a Victory at Sea in probably 8 years or so. The last time I had it, it was in bottles, and now it's in cans. So that's the only beer I think I'm going to seek out from them. Other than that, there's a Chevron station down the street that has Swami's and Sculpin, and that's their 2 IPAs that they have, along with some BA stuff. Or I keep saying BA, AB stuff. Someone said Brewers Association, now I'm saying BA. But there I've had it before, and it's fine, and they keep it all cold. But I have no motivation to seek out Ballast Point stuff.
Yeah, I mean, to keep it in the ship realm, and back in 1912 when people got on the Titanic and they went out to sea and they hit an iceberg and they died. Such is the way of Ballast Point.
Okay. When you made your life on the sea, sometimes the seas can get a little bit rocky.
I just picture those dudes, the band is still playing as the boat is just going down. It's just that sad fucking, we're all dying.
Yep, the kings and convicts are on the little tiny boats, just
women and children
floating out, like, trying to spread the beer. Yep.
But when the kings and convicts come for your vessel,
I feel like I'm standing in line at Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh man, I fucking loved you, Ballast Point. You guys were the best, and I'm
Point,
sad.
Awesome.
I'm sad you're
sad,
gone. But
sad they're gone.
Good, at least good for the guys at top who made a bunch of fucking money.
Good for the rich dudes. Way to go.
To the rich.
Hey everyone, John here. Thanks for listening to another episode of 4 Brewers. You can go to 4brewers.com for show notes, past episodes, and photos of all the beers we sample on the show. Go to supporttheshitoutofit.com or patreon.com/4brewers to support the show to get some cool perks and the Patreon exclusive supporter glassware that we send out to our supporters every year for free. Watch all of our video content, including my beer reviews, cheap beer corner, and the occasional vlog at 4brewers.com/YouTube or youtube.com/4brewersshow. Follow us on Instagram at 4brewers. And follow us on Untapped at 4Brewers. Go to twitch.tv/4Brewers or 4brewers.com/live to watch the live stream of our recording sessions and some occasional 4B gameplay. Leave a 5-star review of the show on Apple Podcasts because it really helps us with the rankings and visibility of the show in the Apple Podcast directory. And if you have any feedback, questions, concerns, or you want to send some beers our way, email us at feedback@4brewers.com and brew the shit out of it.